The silence of deep space was broken by a soft ping in the communications hub on Luna Base. Officer Tom Jones glanced at his screen, expecting another routine message from a mining operation in the asteroid belt. Instead, his eyes widened as he saw the source data. "Sir, you need to see this," Tom called to his supervisor. "Signal origin is, well, it's not from our solar system." Chief Communications Officer Blake walked over, coffee in hand. "Not unusual these days. Probably the Centauri colony or—" "No, sir. The signal's been traveling for over 3,000 years." Blake froze mid-sip, coffee forgotten. "Alert Admiral Hall. Now." Within hours, the Luna Communications Center transformed into a hive of activity. Specialists from across the United Defense Network rushed to the moon base. Translation teams worked nonstop, running the alien message through every decoding program available. Admiral Hall, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, stood at the center of it all. "What do we know so far?" Dr. West, head of xenolinguistics, cleared his throat. "The message is from a species calling themselves the Vex Imperium. We've cross-referenced with historical archives and found records of a brief encounter with them about 3,000 years ago. A small exploratory vessel made contact near what we now call the Orion Nebula." "And the content of the message?" Hall asked. Dr. West glanced at his colleagues nervously. It's a declaration of war, Admiral." The room fell silent. Then Admiral Hall did something unexpected. She burst out laughing. "I'm sorry," she said, composing herself, "but we're talking about a war declaration that's been traveling through space since humans were discovering bronze tools." "There's more," Dr. West continued, tapping his tablet. "The message includes what appears to be their battle plans." He projected the translated plans onto the main screen. The room stared at primitive diagrams showing what appeared to be wooden ships powered by sails, facing off against human settlements with stone walls. Lieutenant Davis snorted. "They expect us to fight with swords and shields." "The Vex clearly have no idea how quickly humans advance," Dr. West explained. "Based on our analysis, they have extremely long lifespans and very slow technological development. They'd probably thought we have reached iron weapons by now, at most." More laughter rippled through the room as they examined the battle plans. The Vex had outlined strategies for siege warfare against cities with no electricity or plumbing. They detailed how their superior metal weapons would easily defeat human wooden spears. "What triggered this declaration?" Admiral Hall asked once the laughter subsided. Dr. West pulled up the ancient records. According to the logs of the exploration vessel Horizon, they had a friendly trading meeting. However, during a ceremonial exchange, Captain Miller laughed at something, possibly a misunderstanding about a gift. The Vex representatives immediately withdrew and broke contact. "So they declared war because someone laughed?" Officer Tom asked incredulously. "Different species, different customs," Dr. West shrugged. "For the Vex, laughter might be deeply offensive." Admiral Hall straightened her uniform. "Well, I need to inform the Council. In the meantime, draft a response, something diplomatic but honest about our current technological capabilities." As she walked out, Admiral Hall paused at the door. "And someone figure out how to explain to them that the humans they met 3,000 years ago have been dead for nearly as long. This might be the shortest war in history." Behind her, the communications team was already discussing how to gently break the news to an alien species that had just declared war on a civilization that had long since mastered interstellar travel, artificial intelligence, and weapons that could destroy planets. It was going to be an interesting conversation. "This room contains the strangest war council in human history," Admiral Hall announced as she looked around the table. The United Defense Network had assembled a special committee in the Orbital Diplomatic Center, a rotating space station with Earth's blue curve visible through massive windows. Around the oval table sat 12 people, military officers, diplomats, historians, and scientists, all chosen for their unique perspectives on the Vex situation. General Morris, a battle-hardened veteran with more medals than most had years of service, frowned. War is war, Admiral. Even if it's with aliens who are a bit behind the times. A bit behind. Dr. West laughed, adjusting his glasses. They think we're using stone tools and living in mud huts. Ambassador Lee, known for solving the Mars colony crisis through pure diplomacy, raised her hand. We need to view this through a cultural lens. If the Vex live for thousands of years, their entire concept of time differs from ours. What seems ridiculous to us may be perfectly logical to them. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for a show of force, positioning a small fleet near the origin point of the message to demonstrate human capabilities. Others suggested a purely diplomatic approach. We need to find someone who can relate to their perspective, said Professor Miller, a historian specializing in ancient civilizations. I've been digging through archives about the original encounter. He projected a hologram in the center of the table showing grainy footage from the old exploration vessel. The committee watched as humans in outdated spacesuits exchanged objects with tall, slender beings whose skin seemed to shift colors like oil on water. The encounter appeared peaceful until a human captain laughed, a reaction to something not captured in the recording. The aliens immediately stiffened, their skin turning dark red. There, Dr. West pointed. That color change indicates extreme agitation. In many species, red signifies anger or danger. So they've been angry for 3,000 years? Asked Lieutenant Baker, the youngest member of the committee. Professor Miller nodded. To them, it might feel like just a few moments of personal offense. Their perception of time could be so different that they see this as an immediate response to an insult. The room grew quiet as everyone contemplated the implications. I have an idea, said Commander Reed, who had been silent until now. Reed was known throughout the UDN for unconventional thinking. Some called him brilliant, others reckless. What if we send a mission that acknowledges their perception of time? We present ourselves as the distant descendants of those they met, bringing both apologies and education about human customs. You want to apologize for something that happened 3 millennia ago. General Morris scoffed. I want to respect their time perception, Reed answered calmly. To them, it might be like apologizing for something your grandfather did, distant but still connected. Admiral Hall studied Reed thoughtfully. And who would lead this mission? I volunteer, Reed said without hesitation. I study pre-contact diplomacy extensively. Ambassador Lee nodded approvingly. We should also bring artifacts showing human history, how we've evolved from those early encounters to now. Help them understand our development speed. And backup weaponry, added General Morris gruffly, just in case they don't appreciate the history lesson. Admiral Hall stood, decision made. Commander Reed will lead the mission. Assemble a team with diplomatic, scientific, and security expertise. Our goal is peace, but we'll be prepared for all outcomes. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Hall pulled Reed aside. This could either be the most important diplomatic mission in history or the beginning of our first interstellar war. Choose your team carefully. Reed nodded seriously, but couldn't help adding, either way, the history books will note that it began with laughter. Admiral Hall's lips twitched. Let's hope it ends the same way. The UDN shipyard buzzed with activity as workers swarmed around the sleek vessel. The ship, officially designated Diplomatic Scout Vessel 117, but already nicknamed the Jester by its crew, was undergoing a strange transformation. You want us to make it look old? Chief Engineer Taylor scratched his head as Commander Reed explained his vision. Not just old, specifically outdated, Reed clarified, pointing to design schematics on his tablet. We need to communicate visually before we even open communications. The outer hull should look like something from a century ago, while keeping all our advanced systems intact. Taylor nodded slowly. A wolf in sheep's clothing. I can work with that. Across the shipyard, Dr. Wilson was drilling the crew on Vex cultural protocols. A tall woman with patient eyes, She had become the mission's resident expert on all things Vex after studying the limited historical records nonstop for 2 weeks. Remember, they perceive time differently, she explained to the assembled team. What seems like ancient history to us might feel like recent memory to them. Never laugh in their presence unless they indicate it's appropriate. Lieutenant Martinez, a compact man with quick reflexes and quicker thinking, raised his hand. What about their weapons capabilities? The message showed primitive designs, but their ships must be advanced if they can travel between stars. Good question, Reed said, joining the briefing. Intelligence suggests they advance very consistently, but extremely slowly. Their weapons will be powerful but predictable, designs perfected over thousands of years with little innovation. In another section of the base, cultural specialist Kim was carefully selecting artifacts to bring aboard. She moved through a collection of items spanning human history, from stone tools to mechanical clocks to early computers. We need to show progression, she explained to Reed as he inspected her work. Help them understand that humans live briefly but develop quickly. Reed picked up a small music box. This is perfect. Simple mechanics, but instantly understandable across cultures. Meanwhile, Communication Officer Patel was developing translation systems that could bridge the immense cultural gap. The trick, Patel explained to anyone who would listen, isn't just translating words but concepts. How do you explain weekend to a species that might experience time in millennia? The crew spent hours in simulation chambers, practicing first contact scenarios. Sometimes they ended in theoretical peace, sometimes in simulated disaster. Again, Reed would say after each failure, "We have to get this right." As launch day approached, Admiral Hall visited the ship for final inspection. Reed led her through the vessel, showing the strange mixture of deliberately archaic exteriors hiding cutting-edge systems. Impressive, Hall admitted, running her hand along a control panel disguised to look like old-fashioned buttons and switches. And your contingency plans. Reed activated a hidden panel, revealing a weapons system that could disable a small fleet without causing casualties. We come in peace, but we're not defenseless. On the night before launch, Reed found himself alone on the observation deck, staring at the stars. Dr. Wilson joined him silently. "Nervous?" she asked after a while. "Wouldn't you be?" Reed smiled slightly. "We're about to meet aliens who declared war on us for laughing." Wilson nodded. "I've been thinking about that. What if laughter is sacred to them? Or taboo? What if it means something completely different in their culture?" "That's why you're coming along," Reed said. "To figure out those kinds of questions." The ship's systems came online with a soft hum, lights glowing throughout the vessel. "Time to go make first contact," Reed said, straightening his uniform. "Or second contact, depending on how you count." "Let's just hope," Wilson replied with a wry smile, "that this meeting ends better than the last one." As dawn broke over Earth, the Jester lifted off, carrying its crew toward a rendezvous with a species that had been nursing a grudge since humans were still figuring out basic metallurgy. The mission had begun. "Contact in 3 minutes," Lieutenant Martinez announced, his voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge of the Jester. Commander Reed stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the stars on the main view screen shifted slightly. The only visible sign they were exiting faster than light travel. The ship's engines hummed down to a gentle purr. "All stations, report," Reed ordered. "Communications ready," Officer Patel said. "Translation systems online. Defense systems active but masked," Martinez added. "They won't detect our capabilities unless we want them to." Dr. Wilson checked her cultural database one last time, ready to interpret and advise. The ship emerged from FTL travel into a stunning sight. Against the backdrop of a blue-green nebula floated what could only be described as a fleet. Dozens of ships, arranged in precise geometric formations, their hulls gleaming with a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "That's more ships than we expected," Reed said quietly. The alien vessels were massive, each one at least 3 times the size of the Jester. Their design was unlike anything in human records, with smooth curves and spiraling extensions that seemed to serve no practical purpose. Despite their alien appearance, they possessed an undeniable beauty. "They're ancient," Dr. Wilson whispered, staring at the scans. "Those hull patterns match exactly with the recordings from 3,000 years ago. They haven't changed their designs at all." "Incoming transmission," Patil announced suddenly. "Audio and visual." Reed straightened his uniform. On screen. The view screen flickered, revealing a beam that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The Vex commander had skin that rippled with colors, currently a deep purple with flecks of gold. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked independently. Instead of a mouth, a series of small tentacle-like appendages quivered as it spoke. "Human vessel." The translation came through in a flat mechanical voice. "You have entered the battle coordinates as specified in our declaration. Prepare to be boarded and conquered." Reed stepped forward. "I am Commander Reed of the United Defense Network of Earth. We received your message and have come to discuss a peaceful resolution." The alien's skin shifted to a lighter shade. The translation identified this as confusion. "You have achieved space travel?" the Vex commander asked. "Our calculations indicated you would still be using primitive ground transportation and simple projectile weapons." Reed tried to keep his expression neutral. "Our species develops technology quite rapidly. The humans you encountered 3,000 years ago were our ancestors. Many generations have lived and died since then." The alien's skin rippled dramatically, and the bridge translator indicated extreme shock. "You are not the same humans. They have expired." "Yes," Reed explained gently. "Humans typically live less than a century. The ones your people met have been gone for nearly 3,000 years." The Vex commander turned to speak with others off-screen, their skin colors shifting rapidly through various hues. The translation system struggled to keep up, catching phrases like temporal miscalculation and species life cycle error. When the commander turned back, their skin had settled into a deep blue. "This changes our tactical assessment. You have evolved beyond our projections." Martinez tensed, hand hovering near the weapons controls, but Reed gestured for calm. "We didn't come to fight," Reed said. "We came to understand. The humans who met your people meant no offense. What appeared to be laughter was a cultural misunderstanding. Yet you arrived in a ship designed to appear less advanced than it is," the Vex commander noted, skin flashing briefly orange. "Our scans detect energy signatures inconsistent with your vessel's appearance." Reed smiled slightly. "An attempt to communicate on your terms. Perhaps we could meet in person and begin anew." After a long pause, the Vex commander's skin shifted to a gentle green. "Acceptable. We will receive your representatives. This war may require reconsideration." As the transmission ended, the bridge crew exchanged glances of cautious hope. "Well," Dr. Wilson said with a small smile, "at least no one laughed this time." The shuttle bay of the Vex flagship swallowed the jester's small diplomatic craft like a whale consuming a minnow. As the shuttle doors opened, Reed took a deep breath and led his team into alien territory. The Vex receiving area was vast and eerily beautiful. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with subtle colors that matched the skin tones of the aliens waiting for them. Curved architecture with no straight lines or sharp angles dominated the space. Grand Commander Tell stood at the center, flanked by 6 other Vex officials. Up close, the aliens were even more impressive, nearly 8 feet tall with willowy limbs and those distinctive 4 eyes that seemed to track everything at once. "Welcome to the Eternal Vessel," Tell's translator device spoke in mechanical English. "We have prepared a meeting space according to what our records indicate about human comfort requirements." Reed bowed slightly, following Dr. Wilson's cultural advice. "We appreciate your hospitality. We've brought items to help explain human history and development." The Vex led them to an enormous circular chamber where cushioned areas had been arranged around a central platform. As the humans sat down, Reed noticed the cushions were oddly firm, probably designed based on 3,000-year-old data about human seating preferences. Dr. Wilson opened their presentation by displaying a timeline of human development since the first Vex encounter. She showed images of each century's advancement, from sailing ships to steam engines, automobiles to aircraft, early computers to quantum networks. Impossible. One Vex official's skin flashed bright yellow as the translator conveyed disbelief. No species could evolve this quickly. We don't live long enough to go slowly, Martine said simply. Reed watched Tell's skin cycle through several colors before settling on a thoughtful blue-green. Your rapid advancement explains much. The original incident makes more sense now. About that incident, Reed said carefully, we'd like to understand what caused the offense. Tell gestured to a historian who activated a projection showing the ancient encounter from the Vex perspective. The humans watched as their ancestors exchanged gifts with the Vex. When the human captain laughed, the recording captured something the original human cameras had missed. A subtle ripple effect through the Vex skin had spread to all present aliens. In our culture, Tell explained, the sound you call laughter is only produced during dominance displays. Your captain effectively declared himself superior to our entire delegation. Dr. Wilson leaned forward. For humans, laughter can mean many things. Often it expresses joy or appreciation, not dominance. To demonstrate, she opened a case containing artifacts from human history. She showed tools, books, and finally pulled out a small music box. When she wound it up, a simple tune played, and a tiny ballerina spun. One of the younger Vex moved closer, 4 eyes fixed on the dancing figure. Then something extraordinary happened. The Vex's skin rippled in a pattern they hadn't seen before, and a soft chiming sound emerged from their tentacle mouth. Are they laughing? Martines whispered. Dr. Wilson nodded slowly. I think so. Suddenly all the Vex were staring at their younger companion, their skin turning deep purple with gold flecks. The human team now recognized this as shock. Analyst Jun has expressed spontaneous appreciation, Tell said, sounding stunned. This is unprecedented in diplomatic contact. Reed smiled. On Earth, we often say that joy is universal. Perhaps laughter is too, just expressed differently. As the meeting continued, the humans shared more artifacts, simple games, art, music, while the Vex explained their own culture. They learned that Vex lived for thousands of years, valued stability above all else, and considered rapid change dangerous and chaotic. We prepare for war for centuries, Tell explained. Your species would have developed and fallen dozens of times in the time it takes us to design a new weapon. As the cultural exchange deepened, the initial tension dissolved. By the end of the meeting, Reed felt cautiously optimistic. When they prepared to return to their ship, Tell approached Reed privately. Commander, the Vex leader said, I must ask, do all humans develop as quickly as your technology? Reed smiled. Some things change slowly, even for us. Curiosity, friendship, understanding. These remain constant throughout our history. Tell's skin shifted to a warm orange. Perhaps there is wisdom in both our approaches. The alarm blared through the Jester's corridors, jerking Commander Reed from a rare moment of sleep. He grabbed his uniform and rushed to the bridge. Status report, he demanded as the doors slid open. Lieutenant Martinez pointed to the main screen where chaos unfolded. 3 Vex ships had broken formation and were moving aggressively toward both the human vessel and Grand Commander Tell's flagship. Message from Tell coming through, Officer Patel said, fingers dancing across her console. Tell's image appeared, skin cycling rapidly through dark reds and blacks. Commander Reed, we face an internal problem. Elder Commander Vac has rejected our peace discussions. He leads a conservative faction that believes all other species are inferior. How can we help? Reed asked, already signaling Martinez to ready defensive systems. You cannot. This is an internal, Tell's transmission cut off as energy weapons flared across space, striking both the Jester and Tell's flagship. The ship rocked violently, shields holding at 87%, Martins reported. Their weapons are powerful but outdated compared to our defenses. Reed made a quick decision. We're not sitting this out. Patel, open a channel to all Vex ships. Martinez, prepare non-lethal countermeasures. On the rebel Vex vessels, Elder Commander Vac watched with satisfaction as his ships fired on the humans. The small human vessel should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, it remained intact, barely damaged. Impossible, Vac hissed to his crew. Increase power to weapons. A voice echoed through his ship. Reed's voice, translated into the Vex language. Attention all Vex vessels. This is Commander Reed. We understand your concerns about humans. Let me demonstrate why conflict is unnecessary. Before Vac could respond, his ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Lights flickered, weapons went offline, and artificial gravity weakened. Yet life support remained functional. What is happening? Vac demanded as his skin darkened with rage. On the Jester, Dr. Wilson watched nervously as Reed implemented their hastily formed plan. Are you sure this will work? No, Reed admitted, but it's better than shooting back. Martins directed targeted electromagnetic pulses at the rebel ships, carefully calibrated to disable systems without causing permanent damage. Meanwhile, Dr. Wilson had helped create a visual presentation now broadcasting to all Vex ships. The presentation showed Earth's history of warfare, from ancient battles with swords to nuclear standoffs, from global conflicts to the peace that eventually unified humanity. We've already fought the wars you're eager to begin, Reed's voice explained to the Vex. We learned they solve nothing. On Tell's flagship, the Grand Commander watched the human response with fascination. Instead of returning fire, they were disabling Vex ships without casualties, while simultaneously delivering a history lesson. Tell opened a channel to Vex ship. Elder Commander, the humans could destroy us if they wished. Their technology has advanced far beyond our projections. Yet they choose restraint. Vac's ship drifted powerless, his rebellion effectively neutralized without a single casualty. Impossible, he repeated, but his skin had shifted from angry red to a conflicted purple. Reed received a private transmission from telephone Commander Reed. I request your presence aboard my vessel immediately. Bring Lieutenant Martinez and Dr. Wilson. We must formalize peace before Vac supporters regroup. Within an hour, Reed stood in the Vex Council chamber facing not only Tell but also a subdued Elder Commander Vac. The ancient Vex's skin had settled into a reluctant blue-gray. The human demonstration was effective, Vac admitted. Their advancement is undeniable. Tell's skin rippled with what Reed now recognized as satisfaction. Then you withdraw your objection to peace. Vac looked directly at Reed. I have witnessed 1,700 years of Vex expansion. Never have I seen a species disable our vessels without destruction. Sometimes, Reed replied carefully, the strongest response is restraint. For the first time, Vac's skin shifted to a color that the translation system identified as respect. The war, Tell announced formally, is concluded before it began. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps that's the best kind of war. 1 month after the near disaster with Elder Commander Vac, the Grand Hall of the United Defense Network headquarters on Earth buzzed with activity. Humans and Vex moved among each other, their differences striking yet somehow harmonious. Commander Reed straightened his formal uniform, watching as Grand Commander Tell and 5 other Vex representatives examined Earth's night sky from the massive observation windows. Their skin rippled with gentle blues and greens, colors Reed now recognized as wonder and appreciation. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, Admiral Hall said, appearing beside him. Hard to believe these are the same beings who declared war on us. Reed nodded. Time perception changes everything. To them, it's like they sent that message last week. In the center of the hall stood a remarkable document, the first peace treaty between humans and the Vex Imperium, written on actual paper at the Vex's request. Their culture valued physical records that could last millennia. Dr. Wilson approached, accompanied by analyst Jun, the young Vex who had first displayed laughter during their cultural exchange. "We've been working on something interesting," Wilson said with barely contained excitement. "Jun, would you like to demonstrate?" The young Vex's skin shifted to a bright, cheerful yellow. Then, to everyone's surprise, Jun made a sound remarkably similar to human laughter, a melodious chiming that rang through the hall. "Jun has been practicing human expressions," Wilson explained, "and teaching me Vex emotional displays in return." To demonstrate, Wilson's face remained perfectly neutral while her hands made subtle gestures that caused Jun's skin to ripple with the Vex equivalent of amusement. Admiral Hall raised her eyebrows. "You're laughing in Vex." Expressing appreciation through color kinetics, Wilson corrected with a smile. "It's becoming part of our new diplomatic protocols." Across the room, Lieutenant Martinez was demonstrating a simple card game to a group of fascinated Vex engineers. What had begun as a security precaution had evolved into genuine cultural exchange. "They've incorporated some of our tactical thinking into their security procedures," Reed observed, "and we're learning from their long-term planning perspectives." The formal signing ceremony began as representatives from both species approached the treaty. Tell's skin shifted to a formal deep blue as he addressed the assembly. "For 3,000 of your years, a misunderstanding divided us," Tell's translator conveyed. "Today, we recognize that difference need not lead to conflict." Admiral Hall stepped forward. "Humanity has much to learn from the Vex perspective on time and stability, and perhaps we can offer fresh perspectives in return." As they signed the treaty, a ripple of multicolored light spread through the Vex delegation, their version of applause. Humans responded with traditional clapping, creating an unusual but fitting harmony. Later, as the celebration continued, Reed found himself alone with Tell on the observation deck. "Your ships prepare to leave tomorrow," Reed said. "Will we see you again in our lifetimes?" Tell's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple. "We have established a permanent embassy here. I will personally return every 5 of your years. A brief moment for me, but I understand it is significant for humans." Reed smiled. "We'll try to keep things interesting for you." "That," Tell replied, "is something humans excel at without trying." His skin rippled in what Reed now recognized as Vex humor. As dawn broke over Earth, Reed watched the majestic Vex ships depart, their hulls gleaming in the morning light. They moved with deliberate grace, unhurried after thousands of years of existence. On his desk, Reed found a gift, a small device of Vex design. When activated, it projected a 3-dimensional star map showing both human and Vex territories, now marked as allies. At the bottom, in both human and Vex writing, was a simple message: "Time separates, understanding unites." Reed couldn't help but laugh, a sound that now symbolized not misunderstanding, but the beginning of an unlikely friendship between species separated by time, but united by curiosity. In the vast archives of both civilizations, the incident would be remembered. The war that ended in laughter, the misunderstanding that led to understanding, and the strange harmony found between beings who experienced time itself differently. And somewhere in deep space, other ancient messages were still traveling. Other declarations of war or friendship from species yet unknown, making their slow way across the cosmos toward a humanity that would be very different when they finally arrived.